Hello everyone. So in this video we will be setting up AWS Control Tower. So as you can see in this diagram, so this is how we are planning to set up the Control Tower. We will be creating AWS organization and we will be setting up different OUs, as you can see over here: security OUs, sandbox, production, etc. And we will be creating different account types and assign them to the OUs directly. So with AWS organizations and AWS Cloud Tower, so let's just go to the details what each of these services are actually meant to do. So first of all, AWS organization, it is a service to manage multiple AWS accounts under a single root account. So generally we have a root account and we can create multiple accounts. We can use AWS IAMs to create an account, and then we can assign different roles, right? But this is one step further. This is something that we can create an entirely new AWS account and then share all of these things, and including we can share bills and etc. So it is used to structuring accounts into organizational units and apply a service control policy to control account behavior. So service control policy is something that we set up using AWS guardrail. So with that we enable each account to have a different control or different level of permissions. So yeah, and we're going to use Terraform to create all of these things, all of the setups. So we will be creating organizational unit like security, sandbox, production, etc. Let's talk about AWS Control Tower. So AWS Control Tower is an orchestration service that automates landing zone creation using multiple AWS services. So it is used to deploy a secure multi-account environment with guardrails, centralized login, and auditing. Now with Terraform, we can provision landing zones using Cloud Tower modules. We will be going through the Terraform codes in a bit. And we can also enable HCP with guardrails. It also helps deploy account factory for new account provision, so we can create new accounts if you need. We enable IAM identity center for SSO connection, so we can do that via organizations, but in our current lab we are not going to perform this particular task. This lab focuses on how to use Terraform to set up control tower, organizations, organization units, and accounts. Okay, what is organization? What is OUs? So OU stands for organizational units. It is a logical container to group accounts under a hierarchy. So you can create a different sort of a hierarchy over here. For example, this is only a one layer of hierarchy, but if you go to an organizational unit, let's say we got an organizational unit called something like a DevOps, or we can say like product team, and within the product team we can have different OUs that are like DevOps, developer, tester, and other different departments. So with that level of security, we can establish a hierarchy over here. We can also use it to apply guardrails and set up lifecycle policies, etc. So with Terraform we can declare multiple OUs and assign a new or existing account to a different OU, so we can manipulate the accounts to associate it with different organizational units. So yeah, that's the basic outline for the architecture that we're going to follow. Now let's dive into the code, the Terraform code. So I'll be sharing this Terraform code with you guys. We got different files over here. So let's start with the variables. So we got a variable as a TF, and we're going to use this particular variable. So these are the variable setup that we do for our Terraform code. For example, like we set the value of this variable, and we can use this variable within the code. Let's just see where this variable is being used. You can use yeah, so you can see this particular variable is used in multiple files over here. One of these is faster file, faster TF, the one that we are currently viewing right now. And you can see over here within the create landing zone, we are using this particular variable, and we are using Terraform the t of parse to assign the value to a variable. Okay, so in your case, what you can do is you can see this Terraform the t of parse that sample, and you can manipulate the variables as per your need over here. just remove the dot sample from the file, and you will have this file named Terraform the t of parse, and you can assign your variable values as per your need. So yeah, and we are setting up the organizational where we want to set our control tower. This is the reason for that. Now let's go to the main file. So you can see we are using variables, and using that particular region variable over here, and use that. Okay. So generally in Terraform there is a main tf file which have this template, and we are using AWS providers. So Terraform can manipulate a lot of different things, not only the AWS. You can use for Google Clouds, Oracle Clouds, Azure, or other different hundred of different services. You can go through the Terraform website for that. But for AWS, we are using this particular AWS version. Now with this, we are allowed to use different sort of AWS components. For example, if you go to create a landing zone section, and you can see AWS organization. So this is one component that is provided. This is a resource, I would say. Okay, so this is a resource that is provided by our AWS provider. So yeah, now let's go to our create landing zone. So in create landing zone, we can see we have tried to create multiple resources. So this is how we wrote a Terraform code, and it will create these resources directly into AWS. So resource, and then the name of resource, and the name that we are gonna give. So this particular org name is something that we use for internal references. For example, like if you want to reference this particular resource within different resources, like this resource depends on this resource, right? So this org and this org. So this is the name that we use for internal references within the file. So let's say if I put orgs over here, then I need to put orgs over here. That's the only thing. Okay. And this particular variable name, or you can say resource name, is provided by AWS provider, and this needs to be exactly the same as being provided. You can go for the documentation on this. Now we are trying to create so it says resource AWS organization. So this will create an organization with, and it got certain variables or like services that are being set up over here. So we said like feature set all, so we are gonna select all for this one. And then the second one is AWS organization account, and with this we will be creating an account. The account name would be audit, but this is just only the internal reference. But if you go through the name, so this is the name that we are going to set to the account. And if you go to the variable, click on this, so this is the variable that we're going to choose. And if you again try to see what's the value of it, now you can see the account name is security. Okay, so this security name is the value that is going to be over here, and the name of the audit account would be security. That's it. The email is pretty much same. You just see that. So the email address would be audit-account123@example.com. so that's the value that we are giving right now. And yeah, same goes for the logging account, and we can also see if we can create a backup account. I'll just go through this a little bit later. Do we have see the variables? So you can create this later. And another resource that we're going to create is Control Tower landing zone, and the landing zone has different setup parameters, so we can use this parameter to configure our landing zone. we're just gonna name. So there are different landing zones that we're gonna create. One is security, another one is sandbox. So with the name we have prepared over here, now we can create like where the logging is being done. So we can set up the actual logging parameters over here. We can set up how much the login duration would be. So for a particular S3 bucket, this is gonna be like 60 days of logging period, and it automatically deletes it. So that's the configuration we are maintaining over here. City role. So this file controls all the IAM policies and roles. Let's go through this. To create an IAM role, we use resource IAM roles, AWS IAM role, and this is the name. And yeah, so these are the name that we're going to provide to the IAMs, like AWS Control Tower admin. So this would be the role name, and the role policy would going to be something like this. Okay, so it's going to allow for Control Tower to assume role. And other thing that we can do is we can create policy. So these are like IAM role policies, and we will be attaching the role, or we will be attaching the policy to the role. So as you can see, which role do we gonna attach it to? It's going to attach IAM role, AWS Control Tower role ID. So generally it's gonna attach to this role. Okay, so we are actually referencing, as you can see, this is the reference variable within the file, like I said, and this particular policies is going to be attached over on this one. Now same goes for all other stuff, like we got policy attachment. So this is the policy that we created, and this is how we attach it. Okay, so we got a resource called attachment, and we got like this policy to be attached to this policy. So this actually, yeah, we are trying to attach the manage policy over here. So we got a manage policy called AWS Control Tower service policy, and we are attaching this particular policy to our role. Similarly, we can have different roles. We can set up our own JSON parameters over here, and you can see these are the policies being attached to different roles. We have created multiple roles as per our need. I'm not gonna go through all of this, why we need this, but generally for AWS Control Tower to create different resources or to create different accounts, these are needed. So as you can see, list account, list services for organization. So this is more like a Control Tower being able to access to organizations, accounts, OUs, etc. So yeah, these are the things that are mostly in our Terraform files. So let's go through and try to set it up. The first thing that we're gonna need is Terraform in our console, or like in our laptop. So let's try Terraform version. So make sure you install it, and you should have, if you do Terraform version, then you should have something like this. The number might be different, but at least it should come like this. Okay, for the installation you can follow Terraform guides. Just go to online and install Terraform. So you got different installation over here. If you go the hardcore installation guide, you can see this one is for Mac OS. Just copy and paste for the Mac. For Linux, you can just copy paste this line, and for Windows, so you might need to install something called Choco, and then you can install via that to install Terraform. So you get the idea, right? Just the installation commands. Now yeah, so the next thing that I'll be doing is to run Terraform init. So what Terraform init does is it creates a state file. It actually initializes the project to be a Terraform project. So if you so I have already run this command. If I go to the command run over here, and if you see Terraform init, so it actually initialized the backend. So backend is something that we use for Terraform state. So you guys are familiar with the state. Terraform state is something that this is just a file that represents the actual state of your AWS console. So whatever it written in this file, it means that these are the setup that is currently being represented in AWS console. So whatever in the AWS console, this file represents it. So let's say if I make a changes in Terraform and if I try to apply it, then at least the Terraform needs to know like what is already in the AWS that is being created over there, so that it can manipulate it and make the changes or update it better. So yeah, with Terraform init, you can establish this project is now Terraform. It will create the Terraform folder like this, and it will try to set up different repository. For example, like we added AWS provider, so it will just go and download the AWS provider like that, and the state file will come next when we actually run it. Okay, so the first command Terraform init. Now before that, you can export your AWS control credentials. For that, you go to your you can go to your AWS console, and you can go to IAMs, click the user. So this is the root user for me, and you can go to security credentials and just create a new access key. Okay, so if you already have one, then that's good. And once you create the access key, you will have a file like this, and the file will give you access key ID and secret access key. That's it. So you can use export AWS access key ID and the key name, key ID, and export AWS access key for this. So it might not work in case like you have other accounts set up in your laptop already. So if that's the case, then what you can do is you can just use AWS configure command. So let's see what it does. If you go here and just press AWS configure and press enter, so it will ask for the key and ID. Okay, now just copy paste the key and ID over here, and it will configure it in the file. So the file, so that particular file is AWS credentials. So you can see this is how it set it up. So once you have done this, then try to run Terraform plan. So after Terraform init, Terraform plan. So let's see what happens in my case. If I run Terraform plan, let's give it some time to check the state. So it checks the state, and it says so there are something I have already run the Terraform command and my setup is already being done, right? So if I Terraform plan again, so it says so it's checking if the control tower role is there or not, and then if I try to apply it, then it won't change much of the thing. It will just change the the region from southeast 2 to east 1. So I just make this one change in my file before, and then yeah, almost everything is pretty much similar, right? So but if I run this command for the first time, let's say I haven't even run the Terraform and my account is completely clean, there is no resources, then what happens? So if that's the case, then if I run the Terraform plan, it will show something like this. So it will say like create, so it will try to create a lot of the different things. What would it create? It will create AWS Control Tower landing zone, that's with example, and it will create the ARN, so it will be the ARN will be known after the creation is done. So all of these things. It will create a control tower admin role, it will create control tower role, CloudTrail role, it will create all of these things, right? So everything that we have wrote in city roles, it will just create all of these things. So because these are not created yet, let's see what else. So it creates inline policies still from the city role, which is going to be down. So it will these are again the policies. Okay, now you can see it will also create AWS accounts, organization accounts, right? And it will create audit account, logging account, organizations itself. So all overall it will just create everything in the file that we have created, and it will create 14 resources. Nothing that is existing over there is changed, nothing is destroyed. Okay, but if I run this second time, So this will be the second time that I will be running it. It will just make changes to the two accounts, or to it will just make changes to the two resources that has already been created. So this Terraform plan, sorry. So yeah, the Terraform plan command, it doesn't make actual changes. It just shows you like what are the things that will be changed if you apply the Terraform codes. Okay, so if I just go and say Terraform apply and press enter, so it will ask for my so yeah, so it will say again, so these are the things that will be changed if I apply this, right? So the same thing that is shown by our Terraform plan, and it asks for me for the approval, like do you really want to change it? And if I press yes, it will start to change this thing. Okay, let me just press no for right now. And in my case, when I use Terraform apply for the first time, it again shows these are the things that will be created. And if I instead of no, I press yes at that time, and it starts to create Terraform role, Terraform Cloud Trade role, and all the things, right? And it takes some time to create it. So as you can see, it almost took me around 26 minutes to create all of these things, and it says all of the things are created. So if I go to my dashboard in my console, so if I just click on Control Tower, and yeah, click on dashboard, so you can see there is one organization unit. There are 3 accounts. So the accounts are my main account, the security account, the logging account, right? So these are the accounts that we created to Terraform code. If you go to over here, if you go to, let's say, create a landing zone, and within the landing zone you can see there are 2 accounts created. The first account audit, second account logging. And if you go to the name, as you can see in our TF variables, the audit account has the name security, and if you go over here, you can see the account name is security, but email address is audit. So that's the actual application, right? I changed this one. Let me just US2, it's good. So it has the AP South is 2 before, so I just don't want to change the region right now because this might take a lot of time to apply it. So for now I'm just going to put this over here and make Terraform plan, and let's see what happens. So generally I just report back my changes and it should reflect over here. Okay, anyways, so let's go to our Control Tower, and you can see there are different accounts that over here. You can see there are different organization units. You got a sandbox, root, core. These are things that we set it up in our command. And yeah, so we got multiple accounts. We can now log into these accounts via this email address as well. It checks for compliance stuff because we have AWS guardrail set up over here by default. So let's just go and try to create something different. Okay, let's go to my zone, and I want to create a new account that is called backup account. So I'm just gonna uncomment this, and let's see. So I just gonna need this. How do you copy that? I'm just gonna copy this one by one and go to my Terraform TF pass. and these are the configuration setup. So I'm just going to paste like that. Let me just copy and paste this away. So yeah. So generally I set up the variable for my backup account. I'm just going to say this backup email, backup, so everything is good. Just save it. So just by setting this up is not enough. We need to change it into our TF bars as well. So make sure you where was that? Yeah, just copy all of this and go to TF bars. Sorry, pass to TF. So it's gonna be something like audit logging. So just copy from here to here and duplicate this part of the code section, and then just copy all of this one by one. So first one is our email. And then second one will be account friendly name, so that will be this one, and the third one will be close and this one. Save it, save all the files. So our error is gone now, you can see. So we need to include it in var.tf, and we need to set the variables in terraform.tf first. That's all. Everything is same now. Let's go to our this is supposed to be, I believe, let's see, EOS2. Right, and yeah, so I'm just gonna do Terraform plan now, because we changed the variable. Let's try to put Terraform init as well. So Terraform init is required when you change something that is relevant with the providers or maybe the Terraform variables. So Terraform plan. So now you can see it will try to create something over here. So it will create a new backup account that we just put in our code, and yeah, you can run the apply command and it should create this. So yeah, that's all for this video. Thank you.